Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host, Connor McCabe, with a little bit of a raspy voice today, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful video game from a particular context in their life. This show is about what makes video games special to different people, and what you're listening today is Co-op episode 58, part of the Co-op series where I actually bring a group of people together, with one exception in the past, to discuss a game that we all enjoy or have had a recent experience with. Today on Co-op episode 58, we're all going to be sharpening thy shovels to talk about Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope. If you're listening to this show on our Patreon as a supporter, thank you so much for your support. Let us know what you think of the episode in our Discord afterwards. And please be excited for the episode that we're covering next month for the month of May, Sea of Stars. And then after that, I can already tell you, actually, no, I might actually be making a schedule change, so I'm not saying anything about that, about June. But thank you for supporting us. If you're listening to this in the future on our free feed or on YouTube, thank you as well for listening. This means a lot. Share the show with a friend. If you like Shovel Knight or this podcast in general, the more people we find, the more people that get to listen to this, just like you. You can follow us all over social media, including our YouTube channel. And if you are listening to this in the future and you're not a patron over at Super NPC Radio, support us at any tier, including the free tier, and you get to join our Discord. There's bonuses they go up based on every single tier from $1, $5, $10. So if you see one that works out for you, consider supporting us there. But that'll do it for the housekeeping, and I will introduce our I guess we're the Knights of, what are they? Well, this is a great way to start the podcast.
The Order of No Quarter.
This is the Order of No Quarter for this episode. First and foremost, a guest on a few past co-op episodes. It's none other than Patrick Ehlers.
Connor, I believe I am the guest on that Exception episode that you were obliquely referring to, where just you and I talked about New Super Mario Bros. Wii, despite the fact that is a 4-player game, and there really should have been 4 people talking about it.
You are correct, and not only is that true, but I also only played the 1-player mode, so really didn't experience the game the way the developers intended. Patrick, glad to have you back, buddy. We're also joined by someone who's been on a few episodes of the podcast, but nay a co-op episode. It's Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, excited to be here. And I was not on the episode where you talked about New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but I just want to say that I do think it's a law of the universe that at any time, somewhere in the world, 4 people have to be talking about New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Otherwise, the Earth spins off its axis, bad things happen.
You're absolutely right. And I like to think that when Patrick and I recorded that episode, just the two of us, that there were 2 other people doing the same thing on some other podcast. Mark, glad to have you here. We're also joined by a first-timer on the Call Me By Your Game podcast. Period. It's Matt Acevedo. Welcome, dude.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I also wasn't on that episode's podcast. Me and Mark, we have played it, though, together at one point. So, I think it's meant to be we merge the 2 groups.
Perfect.
See what that's all about another time. So
it really is. We are quite the fearsome foursome. And before we dive into more Shovel Knight, I will say that I always have such high goals of playing those 4-player Marios with 4 people, and most I've ever do is with 2. I'm a failure there.
Yeah, it can be tough to get people together for multiplayer games that aren't the big, Connor, sometimes you will do a racing game night at your place or a fighting game night. And if it's not a sort of canon fighting game or a canon racing game, we're not playing it, right? And I feel like there's an element of Shovel Knight Showdown, that falls into this category, that it would be so fun to play with a bunch of people, but I've only ever played it with one other person, and that was Michael Hearn at your house just a couple weeks ago.
Yes, another failure on our part, but someday we'll just have to say, folks, if you want to come over and play games tonight, it's just Shovel Knight Showdown. That's it.
I mean, the Switch 2 is going to solve all these problems, right? With the camera and game share or whatever they're calling it.
I can definitively say yes, Mark. The Switch 2 is going to solve this perfectly. Before we dive in, to setting the table a little bit more with some history and context about Shovel Knight and the main campaign that we're discussing today, Shovel of Hope. I wanted to remind the listener, too, that this episode is a part of our 2025 Indies Showcase, where last year we covered sequels, great sequels in video games of all time, such as Half-Life 2, Psychonauts 2, The Secret of Monkey Island 2. We did 12 of them, one per month. We're doing that with indie games this year. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. If you got a favorite indie game, there's a chance that we're covering it. But we're also covering games that we haven't covered in a sufficient way on the network. So a few that are near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, like Limbo, Braid, Super Meat Boy, Fez. We've covered some of those in the past, including Celeste. So yeah, keep an eye out. We got more indies coming for you. And this game, as we do get into the context and history, is, even though it wasn't by no means the first indie game, by no means the first successful indie game, it is one that I feel like, because of a few factors, really hit in a significant way and sort of brought the indie, I guess, genre, is maybe how we'll say it, or the sect of games, into the mainstream. At least in, as a follow-up to the sort of Xbox Live arcade days. So I'm so pumped to talk about this. Patrick, I feel like you're going to add something on here.
Because the Shovel Knight team and Yacht Club is so focused on perpetuating the brand of Shovel Knight, I feel like they did a great job of attaching Shovel Knight to the concept of indie games, right? So that he could be sort of like an indie game mascot, even though such a thing need not exist. Shovel Knight appears as a guest character in 1,000 other games. And no other indie game before that really attempted the sort of ubiquity that Shovel Knight was after.
And I'm sorry, I just want to add that I feel like Shovel Knight for me is one of the first games that I can think of that really blurs the line between an indie game, an indie success like Cave Story, right? And something like Shovel Knight, which has just become its whole enterprise unto itself. It got an amiibo. You know what I mean?
It got 4 amiibos.
It's that kind of remarkable crossover between being an indie success and just being a mainstream. What is an indie game at this point when you're talking about something like Shovel Knight? You know what I mean?
It was a good time for it, for sure. And it kind of scratched this, either a turn to kind of challenging gameplay, which we'll get into, I'm sure, but challenging and rewarding gameplay. It kind of reminded me of remember Super Meat Boy kind of did. It was so addicting and made you just I gotta try this run again. I gotta try again. It kind of scratched that itch, but the vastness of this game, it really kind of blew my mind. And that team is really small. That was Yacht Club Games is a small team, dude. They're really cool people. I got to.
Well, I was just going to say, I think when they started, they were 4 people, and according to the Shovel Knight Wiki, they're only 16 now, but the early team was very small, as you were saying. But I think you're adding something else, too.
Yeah, I visited their office at the time. Shovel Knight was already out. They were working on Showdown, I believe, and they were in Marina Del Rey, on the top floor of this building, and it was so cool in there. It was it just felt like it's an office, but everyone was really cool and super excited to share their game. So I got to play Shovel Knight Showdown over there. I went with my boss, and they're just really cool people. I sing their praises the few times I've met them. They're great. So
that's amazing. This episode does come with a bit of bias from me, in which one of the artists on this game, Sandy Gordon, is a friend of mine. And got to see him I'm sure we'll get into the concert we went to, got to see him at the concert, and he does amazing work. He's going to be working on Mina. So we've all, it looks like a few of us have been graced by a couple of sweeties over at Yacht Club. Before we talk about our history and context, I will do some table setting for the game itself. And guys, this is that part. Like any other podcast, jump in if you want to. Otherwise, I'll just monologue for a couple paragraphs. Without further ado, Shovel Knight is an action platform video game developed and published by Yacht Club Games. Development was crowdfunded on Kickstarter, to be specific, and the game was released for the Nintendo 3DS, Wii U, and Windows in June of 2014, and it has since been ported to many platforms, including being a title available at the launch of the Nintendo Switch, if anyone can remember, way back in March of 2017. Shovel Knight is inspired by gameplay and graphics of platformer games developed for the NES, such as the Mega Man series, which I'm assuming will come up a lot in this episode. The original team was made up of 5 developers, and to date, those who've worked on Shovel Knight are Sean Velasco, Michael Herbster, Alec Faulkner, programmers David D'Angelo, Ian Flood, artists Morgan Geyer, Aaron Pollan, Nikki Wozniak, Sandy Gordon, and composer Jake Kaufman, with a special at least one track from Manami Matsume. Patrick, you're going to be one of the resident experts here. Is it just the one track that Manami did?
Yes. I believe it's the Plague Knight track, right? That and she's a original Mega Man composer, yes?
That's right. I believe. Oh yeah, that's my memory's getting jogged. This is something that I think Jake Kaufman brought up at the concert, of how it was so cool to work with someone that inspired him and have them be a fan and work on.
You've alluded to it twice, so we may as well name the concert, right?
Yes, please.
So Connor, Mark, and myself.
Patrick can't be teased.
I can be teased once. You teased me twice, and we just gotta roll it out. We went to the Shovel Knight Steel Die concert here in LA just a couple weeks ago. It was originally supposed to be in January, but then was delayed due to the fires. And it was the leader of the 8-Bit Big Band who leads this band and made these arrangements playing tunes from Shovel Knight. And Jake Kaufman was there, and he spoke towards the end of the concert, and it was all very cool. But we can, I guess, get into it in more detail later, but you had alluded to it twice, so I just thought we should define it.
Yes. There was definitely a danger of me continuing to do that and then never talking about it. So I'm glad you jumped in at the very least. The game itself received critical acclaim, with critics considering it one of the greatest video games ever made. It's rare that we're doing one of these and I say that and it doesn't come up because they're usually good games we're talking about. With the release of additional campaigns, the original story received the retronym Shovel of Hope, which is the main event we're discussing today. The full game was released in December 2019 as Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, which includes 3 other campaigns: Plague of Shadows, Spectre of Torment, and King of Cards, along with the multiplayer fighting game Shovel Knight Showdown. I also want to, just to make sure, I know that a few of you, especially Patrick, even though we're talking about Shovel of Hope as the main event, we're definitely going to leave time for you to gab about any of the other campaigns that you like.
Good,
so
good. Thank you.
I have a very limited experience with them, but I'm not going to make you hold back. In the main story of the game, this features Shovel Knight, our main character, on his quest to rescue his lost partner, Shield Knight, from the Tower of Fate. To do so, he must defeat the Enchantress, protected by her Order of No Quarter. Other knights that you interact with them by, when I say that, feels so clinical. Other knights that act as bosses to different levels throughout the game. A spin-off dungeon crawler puzzle game, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, was co-developed with Vine and released on December 13th, 2021 for
big fan of that.
Oh, nice. I know. I've heard Patrick discuss it on NCS, and maybe you too, Mark. But it was, so it's a dungeon crawler puzzle game. Anything we want to highlight about it right now?
Well, so wait, we're talking Pocket Dungeon is not
Pocket Dungeon.
Yeah, Pocket Dungeon's not one of my favorites, but Matt, if you want to speak to it, go nuts.
It was just like it was like a unique take on like your Bejeweled or Bust. But you're Shovel Knight and there's enemies coming and you're digging and you're trying to dig for like the gems to like line them up. It was just really unique, and it was kind of it was a really addicting and easy to get back into another run. And I'm a big fan of like kind of like roguelike type games, and it kind of felt like that to me. It's just like the replayability of it. It's just really like nice and arcadey, and you can just do like a playthrough and put it down and be like, all right, I'm good for now. Like I really like that a lot. So yeah.
Nice.
And it introduces Puzzle Knight, who rules. His head is like the head of a quill pen. He's very cool.
Incredible. So yeah, that's Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, released in December 2021. Another spin-off, roguelike, Shovel Knight Dig, was co-developed with Nitrome and released on September 23rd, 2022. We got some more fist pumps. But no, that honestly acts as a great way to signal to me that something must be said.
Shovel Knight Dig is awesome. It is a like sort of vertically digging. You're digging straight down. It is also a roguelike game. And it's presented in more of a 16-bit style versus the like normal Shovel Knight, which is like an 8-bit style. It is pretty like faithful to the move set of the original Shovel of Hope, but is roguelike and like so tense and so cool. And the like meta progression of it is really satisfying. I love Shovel Knight Dig.
Yeah, I always thought that in terms of like replayability and the roguelikes like version of it, you really did feel like you were making like good progress every time. I thought it was really good at rewarding you for doing like a bet. You know, every time you did a little bit better, you felt a little more rewarding. And I could go a little further. I could go a little further.
Right.
I thought it was a really nice system.
It also has that really cool roguelike thing of like sometimes you just hit on the right bonuses and you feel like a god as you're descending down into this pit, and then you get taken out by something stupid and you're like, no.
Gosh, that's amazing. Again, Shovel Knight Dig released in September 2022. Last couple notes that I have here is that a remake of the first game called Shovel of Hope DX is planned to be released at a future date. And Yacht Club's next game, Mina the Hollower, is currently in development and, as far as I can find, does not have a release date yet. But it's out there.
Yeah, my understanding is they're both supposed to come out this year, but I don't. I guess I can't confirm that.
Yeah, a lot of indie titles that are like 2025. You know, I'm looking at you, Silk Song. We'll see. You know.
Yeah, truly that. Hades 2, perhaps. Who's to say?
Yeah. Did we? I know, and I might maybe I dreamt this, or I don't know if this was real, or maybe I was a mod made thing. But Shovel Knight 64, was that a thing that was happening? Do you guys remember that?
Do you know, Patrick? Because I know something else 64 that came out.
Well, so I think there was a mod or a fan game or something, but Shovel Knight was also a playable character or just a cameo in Ukulele.
That's right.
So he's in like a 3D space in that game.
Okay. It made me think, as soon as you said that, Matt, I was thinking of Celeste 64. Did you toy around with that?
I love Celeste. Wait, did they come out with a 64 version of it?
It's basically just like a bite-sized version of what that could look like. I believe it's PC only, but the development team just released it for free, and it's really cool, especially if you're a fan of like Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie. It is going to hit on a lot of those levels for sure.
Is it like a reskin of the original Celeste? It's like, you know, just collecting strawberries and like all the platforming and stuff. Is it like similar?
You know, as far as I could tell, it's a completely original layout to this sort of open region that you're in. Cool. But you are collecting strawberries and you do have your 2 dashes and whatnot. So it was fun to dip in for sure. I also wanted to say that Shovel Knight is also, maybe Patrick already said this, is had at least the one amiibo for Shovel Knight that was released. I'm sure someone already, now that I'm saying it, I'm like, someone definitely said that.
Yeah, there are 4 of them. So they released the original, just like it is Shovel Knight, right? Mm-hmm. And then I guess they also released a gold Shovel Knight after that. So technically 5. And then in a 3 like blister pack thing.
Looks like Matt's
pulling them out.
We're in the amiibo treasure box.
Sorry, it's
that's awesome.
It's a Persona 5.
Yeah,
it's my Persona 5 Royal Collector's Edition box for amiibos.
Oh yeah, so Matt's got the King Knight there, and then they also did Plague Knight and Spectre Knight.
That is so cool.
Yeah, they're in here somewhere.
Oh, dude, Matt, I gotta get those. I only have the Shovel Knight, but I need those other 3.
Well, now
they're awesome, dude.
They'll only be $40 now, Patrick.
No, they're like of course you can't buy them new anymore. So you gotta buy them from collectors or whatever, and they usually go for about $100.
So even worse.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patrick, you had mentioned earlier too how the character Shovel Knight's been included in many games, including the one that I've actually interacted with is as a Mii Fighter costume in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, it is it says a lot for if your game gets included in Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for indie games. Like there aren't that many, right? It's like we got Sans from Undertale.
Mm-hmm.
What?
And Shovel Knight.
And Shovel
maybe
Knight.
that's
There
it.
might be more. I just don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
I remember when the rumors when we were all waiting for the Smash Directs and stuff, and I just it was almost like the disappointment in the community. It was so cool, but that he was a skin and not a playable.
Yeah, totally.
What was he
Yeah.
not also
Yeah.
an assist trophy? Am I misremembering that?
that sounds
I
right.
think he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've dipped into ye old Ultimate. Before we talk about, give a brief synopsis of each of our history and context with the game, is there any other, table setting for Shovel Knight and Shovel of Hope that anyone would like to include? Any details that we should bring up? Okay. All right.
Plague Knight rules.
All right. And if it comes up later,
I
you
love
can-
this take. It's
Yes.
wild.
Well, as far as history and context, I'll go ahead and kick off for us. This is a game that I somehow never touched until basically this year at the beginning of 2025. I technically started this bad boy in 2024 in anticipation for this episode, which was originally scheduled to be the first episode for our indie series. I mean, that's how much of a high regard I knew that Shovel Knight had and that I viewed it as an indie title, was that I really intentionally wanted to kick off our series with it as the first game. That didn't happen.
Connor, can you? I need you to tell Matt what your first indie game for the series was.
Because of the delay, we ended up covering Indie, Anna Jones, and The Great Circle as our first indie game of the year.
What?
Yes. Which, to make it up to the listeners, we're actually going to be doing 13 this year. So that was kind of like a, hey, in the meantime, while I don't have time to play a full other game, I have been playing this and I'm done with it. So yeah, so we have one exception made by Bethesda. So
Wow.
yeah, it's very, thank you for teeing me up for that, Patrick.
It just brings me so much joy.
I'm so glad.
It's good to support those really small developers.
gotta.
Yes. And those small voice actors too. But yeah, I have known about this game almost since its launch on, at least when it came to the Wii U, which is a console that I did have somehow in the year 2014. But I had never played it. I've heard its praises sung, finally got to it, and just had kind of a magical month of January. I kind of dipped back a few times just to refamiliarize or play a couple of the other campaigns. But for the most part, my experience with this bad boy is January 2025 and the Steal Thy Concert event that we went to just a few weeks ago. Matt, I'll throw to you. Tell us about your history and context with this game.
Yeah, I think I just finished college, didn't have much money, and the eShop was pretty great for finding cheaper games, Shovel Knight came out. I remember seeing it, and it just looked stylistically, at least just from the images and the little trailers, it looked like right up my alley. It reminded me of Mega Man. It kind of was giving me that itch. I love the that style and everything. So I downloaded it and I found a lot of comfort with it. I love how it throws you in immediately. I love that you could kind of choose your own path, much like Mega Man, and there's freedom and strategy and how you would approach each of these castles, and these knights. And I just remember just falling in love with it and being like, man, this is also real hard, but I was like, man, this game's tough. But it kept me coming back for more. I felt it, I think sometimes with these kinds of platformers or action platformers, there tends to be sometimes they feel either a little, the speed isn't quite right to me. I don't know if that, I feel like the speed on this is perfect. It's, I have a good amount of control. It's still precision is key, but it's not too precise where I'm going to really mess up a lot. I found the movesets to be really, really cool. And I was pretty for a while, conservative with my mana usage though, because I was so scared I would not encounter any potions and, maybe I'd run into a mini boss or something and I needed them. But man, but like when you try and figure out the right balance of using it, it's really rewarding. So and I thought the game was really funny. Like I think the knights are all so funny and unique, and they all have their own big personalities. Like Plague Knight is a little, little minx, the little Plague Knight. It's, running around with his bare feet, jumping around, and like he's like, it's not my potions, it couldn't be, so proud of his work. It couldn't be his potions that cause a mess, but yeah, man, I just like really fell in love with this game. It was for the price. I don't remember when it first came out. It might have been $20 when it first came out on the 3DS. I can't remember, but it got me, like, I played a lot of it.
Cool.
And as someone who was kind of broke and just was looking for something to, keep my time filled, it was like that, and like Pokemon, what was it at the time? Like Alola Pokemon or something.
Yeah,
So
Sun and Moon.
between those two, it like really, yeah, Sun and Moon. So I think it really filled my time.
That's awesome. Is this a title that you've revisited since?
Yeah, I think it's very much like the Nintendo way. I feel like even though they're indie thing, but I download I think for every new console or whatever, I'll download a version of Shovel Knight. Yes. I have the base game, and I even have, I have Treasure Trove, and I have, I think I have every single game. And I've definitely purchased, even if it was like discounted or maybe even included in like a PlayStation subscription, I've downloaded this game several times, man. It's like I had to make sure it's in my library. It was just one of those games for me, because you can kind of go back to it at any point, and how you approach things is always going to be a little different,
Yeah, I love hearing that. I mean, my first impression after finishing this was, this is one of those that could become that for me too. Like, the campaign was so entertaining, and there's enough difference that you could make in your choice that I anticipate being this one that, like Super Mario World, whenever I get a new Nintendo console, it's a game I download, and just, even if I don't finish it, I play a good chunk. So,
yeah.
Matt, thank you for sharing. I can't wait to hear more deep thoughts in a little bit. Mark Mitchell, tell me about your time with this game.
Yeah, so I was introduced to Shovel Knight because Patrick was playing it, and he was really enjoying it. No spoilers, and for when Patrick goes, and so I downloaded it on the 3DS, and at the time I remember playing not that far into it and finding the controls really challenging for whatever reason. Like, and so I hadn't picked it up since then, since we were going to play it for this. And so I started playing it about the same time you did, Connor, and I spent the whole time waiting for the controls to get difficult, but they didn't. So I don't really know what was going on when I played it on like the 3DS, but I really hit like a hard stopping point on the 3DS where I was just like, I can't, like, I'm incapable of doing this. And then when I played it for the, on the Switch, I kept waiting to run into that wall and never really did. So I'm going to blame the kind of like mushy D-pad of the 3DS and and blame it on that. But I just had a blast playing it on the Switch this time.
That's great.
I think it's a little I remember being a little thrown off when using your weapons. Like, it's like the down, I think it was down and Y. I was like, it was two buttons instead of just like one.
Oh,
And I remember that was kind of a difficulty to overcome.
Like on the 3DS specifically?
Like directional. I think even today, it's like you have to press.
Yeah.
I think I can't remember the button scheme without my Switch.
Yeah, it's up and Y, I think. It's just like using a special weapon in Castlevania.
Yeah.
Mark, I had the specific thought while playing some of the more difficult levels later in the game of, I don't know how I would do this on the 3DS, mostly because I felt like I needed such a great controller. It was already challenging enough that to use the controls that I felt like were designed amazing with the way that the rest of the world was designed, I would have had a tougher time, maybe just with even smaller buttons or a worse D-pad.
So Mark, you would have been playing like most likely in handheld mode or like with Joy-Cons for sure, right?
Oh yeah, I played when I played it on Switch. I played it entirely in handheld mode. Yeah.
Nice. Well, last but not least, Patrick Ehlers.
Yeah,
Give us the good.
Yeah, I've been plugged into Shovel Knight since before the game came out. Like I remember seeing videos of it in the lead up to the launch over 10 years ago. And just like being in love with the aesthetic of it. Seeing that like pogo bounce that Shovel Knight does with the shovel and being like, this is like DuckTales. This is like Zelda 2. Both games that I love in ways that are not appropriate, especially where Zelda 2 is concerned. And I was not in a position at that time to, jump on the Kickstarter, but I followed it and was sort of like marveling at this like insane success that they got in the Kickstarter, because the reason that we have Showdown and these 3 other campaigns is they had these stretch goals that seemed like they were insurmountable stretch goals, and they hit all these crazy benchmarks and then had to spend the next like 4 years delivering on extra content for the game. And I don't love the Plague Knight campaign, but the other 2, I think, are like world class. I think Plague of Shadows is the best campaign in the Shovel Knight treasure trove. And so like King Knight is maybe just like a hair worse than Shovel of Hope, but like is still excellent. So I don't know. I love these games. I love this franchise. When the Steal Thy concerts were announced, I like texted basically everyone I knew who played video games in LA and was like, will you go to this with me? I
was supposed to go with you.
You were,
but I think it moved because the move didn't work out. Yeah. Damn.
But yeah, no, I feel like I can be annoying about my my fandom for Shovel Knight, and I just love it. And I've played through the main Shovel Knight campaign now, I think 4 times. And the rest of them I've played through at least twice. No, that's not true. Plague of Shadows I finished for the first time earlier this year, because I was originally put off by the weird controls of it, but. I love it all.
That's amazing. And I mean, I don't think you brought it up yet, but you also have a really special Shovel Knight 10th anniversary shirt that you wore to the concert.
That's true. I did wear it to the concert.
Speaking of which, that concert was amazing. Maybe this is the time to talk about it now, but even as a new Shovel Knight fan, I mentioned to the guys, there was a break, there was an intermission. When we went to this little rooftop at the venue at the Fonda in Hollywood, and I was up there, and I told them that I realized I was trying to pretend like the concert didn't make me emotional, but that I was made emotional by everyone else's emotions, and I was like, no, that's just me actually having my spirits lifted by this thing. But it was a really incredible experience of seeing a rock band led by, the 8-Bit Big Band guy. I'm sure he has a name. I should look it up.
I think his name is 8-Bit Big Band guy.
I think you're right. Now that you put it that way. But it was an amazing experience and so much fun to go with you two. Like I said, we saw my friends Sandy. I didn't get to introduce you guys to Sandy, but I saw my friend, because we had a lot of trouble finding my friend Fernanda, Sandy's wife. And also maybe saw one shamed YouTuber there, which caught me by a big surprise, sitting literally right in front of us. But Patrick and Mark, what do you want to say about the concert before we finally dive into Shovel Knight discussion?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I agree with you. It was so fun. And I'm not super familiar with the soundtrack outside of the game, but hearing it performed live was so much fun. And I don't know. I feel like, to be completely honest, I feel like post-COVID, I don't really go out as much as I used to like events like that. And there is something just like so fun about being with a bunch of people that are enthusiastic about the same thing you are. And just being like together at that concert was just a ton of fun.
Yeah. And I guess I'll just like add on to that like, every year there ends up being a, some sort of like touring video game music, with an orchestra thing. And I usually end up kind of rolling my eyes at it because it's like, I'm not going to like sit, like, do I want to sit there for like a selection of pieces from Call of Duty, and I'm like, no, even if the music's good, it's not like that's not a specific vector to my heart. But the fact that this was a whole concert made up of just tunes from Shovel Knight, like, I don't know, it did feel special and energetic, and because the music is so composed for like, an 8-bit, like emulating an NES sound, emulating a Game Boy sound, that like it was a weird feat to see it reproduced with live instruments, right? And that it feels a little bit heavy metal and a little bit like video gamey and a little bit jazzy and occasionally classical. It was just like, I don't know, it was an impressive feat.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that while they were playing, they would show footage from the game, like behind them on the screen behind them, and I really appreciated that wherever they captured the footage from, the person playing it was fine. They were fine at the game, but it wasn't like a perfect run. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, it's like me playing that game. I saw myself in that footage, is what I'm saying.
Truly, it took a couple screens, Mark, but I had the same thought, because first I was like, I just assumed this is a perfect playthrough of this level. And then I think the Shovel Knight missed a like relatively normal jump and had to go back to the ladder, and it really humanized the player for me.
Yeah, totally. I loved it.
Yeah, that was a really fun night. Patrick, I think you were going to share something else.
Well, I have an update that the leader of the 8-Bit Big Band is named Charlie Rosen.
Charlie Rosen, aka 8-Bit Big Band guy.
That's right.
Thank you, Patrick. Let's get into our main discussion and our main thoughts about this game, and we can talk about whatever topics we want, but I wanted to start off with something that was kind of striking me today, which is the first thing that I think about when it comes to this game, and that is how rich of a spirit that this title has. Both from, and I feel like it's almost like a cheating way to say that all of the game is great, but I really do feel like in every aspect of the game that I can think of, you can really feel the passion from the developers, but also that sort of, I think, almost finds itself to be displayed in what I'm calling the spirit, whether it's the characters, the specific way that the world is designed visually, the music, the gameplay. And I feel like you can just see this in so many aspects of the game. Does this ring true for you guys as well? And it's okay to say hard no.
I mean, I feel like for me, I agree completely. I feel like one of the reasons why I was so taken with it is, I'm a huge Nintendo fan, and I think one of the things that I really connect to with Nintendo games is their sense of like playfulness, and like you start a Nintendo game and it's like the Nintendo game is like, hey, I'm here to have fun, right? Like I want you to enjoy this, and I felt that same way about Shovel Knight, where it really like feels like a labor of love, and that every like kind of aspect of it is somebody's baby that they, are just like, I'm so excited to show this to you. And I think that really it's like has a really endearing quality to the game.
Yeah. And not just that, I think I love the charm and the nostalgia of an 8-bit game like this. That is also, it is the art direction of an 8-bit game, what you do with it, right? I feel like the art direction is really so fun and clever, and you just find like the weirdest characters in it too. And even if they look normal, the writing makes them like really crazy, right? Because it'd be like a normal person, they say something super kooky, you're like, what the heck,
Yeah, or you'll interact with like a goat person who is maybe more grounded.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there's in Plague Knight's campaign, there's a character who's a giant saxophone who plays music for you.
And it's just like it's I love that we're not afraid to be silly. And I feel like outside of Nintendo at the time, like everything was so serious, all the games were very serious and stuff outside Nintendo, so it was really cool to lean hard into that goofiness, and along with the exploration of it, like along with like discovering hidden rooms and stuff like that. It just felt really, it was really inviting. So I totally agree with Mark. Just Yeah.
I also feel like the game has a little bit of a like fighting game sensibility when it comes to design, because like each of the knights that are the like end bosses of each level, like it's tempting to compare them to the robot masters in a Mega Man game, but they have so much more personality than that, right? They feel like kind of as iconic as like Zangief and Chun-Li, and like you know exactly who these guys are just by like looking at them and seeing, like, you know, when you fight King Knight, he's like kind of prancing around like he's a little king, and he's just like, you know who he is when you fight him once. And then it's crazy that you get to play as him in the King of Cards scenario, and he's exactly like what you thought he was. And I feel like that's they only made the 3 additional campaigns, but I feel like we could have gotten, you know, campaigns for any of the knights. They're all so clearly defined.
And I just want to clarify one thing, because I really love Plague Knight as a character, but his campaign and his moveset is absolutely garbage.
It's so tough, man. It's for Mark and Connor, the way he works is he's got a double jump, and he also like throws stuff,
Little fart bombs, right?
Yeah, throws little fart bombs,
little potions, little bombs.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, but both of his jumps, both the initial jump and the like add-on jump, are so shallow that to like get anywhere, you really need to jump, throw the fart bomb to get a little boost, and then use the double jump, like the second jump, to like narrow in where you're going. So every jump, like to clear very minor obstacles, you have to jump, throw, jump, and like it's too many buttons. And it's super, super complicated. And like until you wrap your head around it, it's a nightmare.
Wow.
Yeah,
he's a gremlin. He's my little gremlin.
He is a little gremlin.
He really is. Yeah, that I guess button press sequence doesn't sound like the fun of like timing a space jump in Metroid.
Right.
You know, where I'm constantly kind of pressing B or A, whichever it is, but that just sounds a little much.
Right. Or the immediately satisfying of you push down when you're in the air and you bounce off something. Like, yeah.
To me, it kind of sounds like towards the end of the game when you're, you know, like chaining dashes together and all that kind of stuff through that last level. But it sounds like you have to do, which I found stressful, and to have to do that all the time,
right,
like through an entire campaign doesn't sound super fun.
Yeah. Patrick, you brought up the idea on how when you meet one of the, you think I would actually have this, the Order of No Quarter. When you meet one of the Knights of the Order of No Quarter, you really get a great sense of who they are from their personality, their movement, their design, the music, even just the arena that you're in when you fight them.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that, like, remembering back 3 months, so forgive me if I don't have a lot of specific details for this episode, going through specific levels, whether it be for like the fan knight is what I want to call him.
His name is Propeller Knight, but yeah.
Propeller Knight, King Knight, Spectre Knight. I feel like even those levels helped build such a good anticipation for me of like what I would be facing, even if I'd seen their art before.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And Propeller Knight and Spectre Knight, I think, are great examples of this, because like so much of Propeller Knight's level is about like wind blowing you off of platforms and like fans that are either like propelling you up or down or whatever. And then the fact that he has those same mechanics in his boss fight means that he is the ultimate expression of the hazards in the level.
Yeah.
Same thing for Spectre Knight, who you spend the whole time in that level fighting ghosts that become intangible when you hit them, and navigating platforming areas where the lights go out. And Spectre Knight becomes intangible and he turns the lights out. Like, the game is so good at making the bosses, even though they are their own like little fighting game style challenge, making them the ultimate expression of what the challenge of the level was doing, which is not something you'll see in like a Mega Man game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's even added on some like little details I hadn't thought about of how they're expressing that. That's great. There's plenty more to discuss too. I wanted to kind of open up to you guys. Does anyone else have a topic that is front of mind that you want to dive into for Shovel of Hope discussion?
Immediately I think of like some of the items and armor and stuff that I would use, and the one that I use a lot was the one that phased you into invincibility.
Yeah.
And I just want to shout out how that's gotten me out of many dire situations, and I use that one a lot. I almost had it like as it got deeper into the game, I would even like sacrifice that slot for just to have that, because I knew that this game would really push my boundaries. So I had that. I just want to shout out to that for sure.
I like the way that accessory also can help with platforming, like when platforms are moving, because it will freeze him in the air for a second. So like I will use that in a situation where I shouldn't be landing there right now. I just need like a split second longer.
Are we talking about the phase locket? Is it that relic?
I believe
that one?
so.
Oh yeah. I spammed that thing all the time, and I think it's such a great kind of I think like an area that the game is so smart, because you get the phase locket really
early, yeah.
And so it's like for somebody like me who I don't really enjoy super punishing games, and so it was. I feel like it's a great way to kind of like balance the difficulty. It's like if you don't want to use the phase locket, you don't have to, right? Like you can totally avoid it and play the game that way. Or like me, you can have it constantly equipped and just be like, yeah, I'm just going to phase locket my way out of this area. And I really appreciated that. And I thought it was such like a smart addition to make it to kind of like balance the game, give people options on how they want to play it.
Yeah. And as
it took too many go for it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was just going to say, as a newcomer to this game, early on, it was a blessing to have at the beginning. I know I'm kind of reiterating some stuff now, but it was. And then as I got better at maybe more of the platforming and maneuvering of the character, I leaned on other ones in the game, like the fireball when I needed more attack power.
Oh, yeah.
But Matt.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, on the, it definitely, it helps you as you're trying to also map out and like kind of remember how these levels are played out. You know how many times I've just like, I hate like those stupid rats. Like you destroy a piece of brick and a rat shoots out. You're like, well, there goes. Okay. So like as you're mapping out, I think it's so useful if you're trying to not use it later to leave that slot open for better items, relics. Like it's just a really good way to kind of learn the area.
There's the other thing too of the is it truple? What do you call this big fish god thing?
Oh, I thought that was his name.
Yeah, I thought it was Truple, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Truple.
Yeah, it's a giant fish god, and you can go fishing for like little sparkly spots in pits in the game, and sometimes a little like Truple acolyte or whatever jumps out of the water, and will give you the ichor of the Truple King, and you can put those in the two like. They're cups, chalices. Thank you. That you've bought from another acolyte, and sometimes those things give you 10 seconds of invincibility, and sometimes they restore your life. And so that's like another way that you can really extend, like, how far you can get in like one specific like life, one playthrough.
The Truple, the first time that you go to the Truple pond and they dance. That was really like the moment when I was like, oh, I love this. Like this is definitely on like a wavelength that I really appreciate. Yes. Because it was so delightful and then super useful. I went back to the pond all the time to like refill my chalices. But yeah, I thought that was a lot of fun.
I like how much the game commits to like long dance sequences. Like there's a skeleton couple in Spectre Knight's game that when you finish their like little side quest, they do a dance together, and it honest to God goes on for like 4 minutes, and I love it.
Gosh, really, yeah, so long that you're like, maybe it could have been shorter.
Right.
But it's almost funny in a Family Guy like drag out the bit way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet everyone expected me to compare Shovel Knight to Family Guy on this episode. Oh gosh, I love that. Yeah, I found that like I would lean on certain of those not mechanics, but the equipment mat that you had kicked off this part of the conversation with, and eventually by the end sort of limited mine to what they were. So I think when we went to the concert and watched, listened to the songs, but like watched gameplay, this guy was using stuff I never used, like this bouncing ball thing. It reminded me of the weapon in Super Mario Land 1 that you get. It was cool. I loved it. And I think on this part of the discussion too, it is, I think it's important to bring up that this game does allow for a degree of variability in the challenge, in the sense that like you can get as much bonuses as you'd like, or additional health via the music notes or other collectibles, or what you spend your money on in the game. And I leaned heavily on that, folks. I was also really stingy too. If I lost something, I was going back for it. And when you lost that one, it hurt.
Yeah, it almost made it real personal.
Yeah.
I hate this area,
Dude, yeah. I like several times when I was going back to get, some of my floating money in a level where I had died, I would die like right before that, or in a previous screen, and I always felt like such a fool just hunting that.
Yeah, because then you lose it forever. No, it's I like how that. First of all, I just like that mechanic, because then it feels like you can die and it doesn't like. There's no like permanent consequence of it, because you can get that your cash back. But I also like how much it encourages you to spend your money on the upgrades in the two towns. That like I think I probably would have there's no sense in saving up for anything in this game, right? Where it's like as soon as you can afford the next thing, buy it, because you could fall in a pit and lose all of your gold in the next level.
Big time. And it had me like doing one level at a time on certain occasions and going back and spending.
Were you guys big on the checkpoints? Did you whack your checkpoints to get the treasure, or did you leave them so you can respawn in them?
I didn't dare. I left them.
Yeah. I mostly left them, unless I'm feeling real. There were a lot of moments where I felt really cocky, and I'd do like every other one, but it's so risky, man. It's so risky.
I was just playing this afternoon to jog my memory, and I was crushing all of the checkpoints. I was like, they're all going down. I'm gonna destroy them all.
Very brave. I am learning in this moment that that's the incentive to break them. I just thought they just weren't breakable. I think I probably forgot the first time I did that money came out of it, or I damaged one and was like, ooh, let's be a good boy. Let's not break it. Goodness.
Connor, I don't know if that is something that you or anybody else feels, but I, for whatever reason, have a really I always want to follow the rules, even in video games. I have a weird compulsion. Even in an RPG or something where it's like you can be bad. It's like I have such a hard time wanting choosing that route, because I'm such a teacher's pet, I think.
Oh, same.
It's just
so
ingrained in
relatable,
me.
dude. Absolutely. Gosh, such a rule follower. Well, speaking of following rules, Mark, I'll call on you and ask if you have an aspect of the game we haven't discussed yet that you want to bring up.
Yeah, I want to talk about kind of the move set, because I feel like, I'm not a big Mega Man person or anything like that, but I feel like one thing that this game does really well is, it's you have a shovel, and yes, the shovel is going to you have the ability to upgrade it and to get an armor sets that give it additional capabilities, but the majority of the game is built around a very small move set. Right? You have the ability, like Patrick was saying, to kind of do this pogo stick move. And that's going to be huge for you. You can attack using your shovel, but for the most part, that's basically it. And then the game just continues to elaborate on that, or find new and exciting ways to use that moveset. I remember getting into the Hall of Champions, and I think that's the one where there's the ghosts that are around, right? Mm-hmm. And it's okay, you can't attack the ghosts, but I have this shovel, and so how do I know that I have to use the shovel? I know that I have to use this limited moveset to take it out. And, there's like the orbs that you're, like hitting in order to kill the ghosts that are floating around. And I don't know, I just feel like it's something that I found so fun to be like within this limited move set as like game designers, developers, like within this limited move set, what can we do with this? Like, how can we continue to kind of like elevate the experience without throwing in a bunch of crazy new moves?
Right. Well, and I feel like that's so like the Hall of Champions is like one sort of like special little thing that happens, but like there are levels later on, like in Mole Knight's stage where there's like the green bouncy stuff that you're jumping on, and like you're on the back of that like beetle that has like the green butt, and so you're like bouncing, which gives you more like range to hit things with your kind of downward pogo jump. And in Polar Knight's level, where there are those like floating griffin platforms that like vomit when you hit them, they vomit like a rainbow and like catapult forward. That's just like another extension of like your very basic move set of like jump, pogo, and swing shovel. It's so smart about how it builds on those things.
Yeah, and it allows for, as much expanding of your arsenal as you'd like to. And, for someone like me, I'm going to push that to its limit because I need all of that to beat this campaign. But maybe for an expert or someone who's been around the block, like you, Mr. Patrick Ehlers, it might be a fun challenge to limit yourself and see what you can do. But
no way. I want to use everything all the time.
Nice. I do love that. I think also I wanted to bring up that this is not the coined term, but it should be. On the Hollow Knight Games Club that Super NPC Radio did last year, we cemented the term Scrooge McDucking for when you pogo stick something. So I'm sure someone had said that before, but we felt like we were original. So even that, it took me a little bit to get used to that, despite having played a game with that very similar mechanic, although different implementation in Hollow Knight about 6 months before. But boy, did I just grow to love that. And I feel like the game kind of incentivizes you to do so. It might even, I don't know if it deals more damage, it might, but it's even more fun just to like bounce off of a character that you're attacking, especially like a boss that's zipping around, and to get a few hits in. And later in the game, I think it even allows you, it might take a special ability to get this, but then you build up a charge swing by doing that. So I just love it.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like my Marge Simpson. I just think they're neat.
Talking about potatoes.
That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
Especially with this voice right now. Me. Okay, I can't even get the word out.
What is everyone's favorite of the relics of like those power up moves? Mark, I know you already mentioned the invulnerability thing.
Let me look it up. I leaned on that. I mentioned the fireball already, which is a really powerful sort of like magic spell that you throw forward. I'm gonna try to look up the other ones while we discuss this.
I'm a big fan of the like punching gauntlets that you like.
I also love
it's
those.
So cool. It propels you forward like into things as you're destroying them. And
I didn't use them very much outside of like the level that you kind of. Is that wait? Is there a level where you kind of have to use them? Or no?
There's like a little. There's like a challenge level where you have to use them a lot.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, I basically leaned on the phase locket and then the fireballs, whatever those are called.
Yeah, I agree with you, Patrick. Anytime I can have something that's going to also propel my movement forward too, I found myself using that one a lot. Because just to keep the momentum going in the game, anything like that is really, really great. So, also for fun wasn't what are they like the balls? It wasn't the fireballs. It was the
green bouncy one.
Oh, the green bouncy balls. Yeah.
Oh, maybe
those
the
were
chaos
kind of
sphere.
Fun. Yeah, is that what they're called?
I'm just looking at a list. I think it might be. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was an event in American Gladiators, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But I found that was actually for me. I use that a lot, using like fighting bosses, because it would just I would keep moving because they kind of have a mind of their own. So I would use that during boss fights a lot.
I love that. That was the one that I think I saw that player using at the concert, and I was like, why didn't I consider this? Yeah. I love that. I think, too, talking about the relics, there's, of course, the armor sets that you can use. I think eventually, once I got enough money, I just bought the armor set. I think it was the silver one that might allow you the highest defense but not take away from your damage. But is there a canon best armor to wear?
I think they all have drawbacks, right?
Okay.
Like because like I really like the magician's armor that gives you double mana, but you take twice as much damage. Because then you can just like use whatever relic you are using like to your heart's content. Like there's no stopping you. And I also really like the gold armor set because he does somersaults when he wears it.
It's great. The description for that one, which is identical in the game, says flashy, acrobatic, useless.
Yeah. It's the most expensive one.
Yeah, but they do. I think they all do have a drawback as well, if I remember correctly. It reminds me of Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time, who always said, "Magic has a price, dearie." For all you Once Upon a Time fans out there,
everyone. So you're just
it's just
addressing
this
everyone.
is the monoculture was.
Mr. Gold. He turns out to be the Beast. Okay, and Peter Pan's son. Okay.
Family Guy was the surprise today. Once Upon a Time was expected, Matt, for sure.
Did they have to pay the creative team of Fables when they made that show? Because it seems like it's just Fables.
Yeah, it's just Fables. Yeah. It's just Fables.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Patrick, I haven't really opened the floor to you yet, my dearie. What's something that we haven't discussed yet that you want to bring up?
I mean, can we talk about the way the story is told in this game? Because like it's a fairly simple story, and like it basically just boils down to Shovel Knight wants to save his girlfriend, but like by the end of it they're battling together, but like so it'll occasionally tell the story through like especially at the beginning where there are these like very NES style or very Ninja Gaiden-esque cutscenes, right? And then just like as the game goes, it sort of just like plays itself out through the gameplay, right?
Yeah, it starts with the like panel cutscenes, which is truly like a static screen at a time with possibly some text, and then moves into the gameplay and the action that you see on screen.
Yeah, and I just think it's really nice that like there's a little bit of like a rivalry between Shovel Knight and Black Knight, and like knowing that there is like this whole thing with the Enchantress and recruiting the Order of No Quarter, and then that like the Enchantress that you're fighting is also was Shovel Knight, and you have to like split them apart. Is all like I don't know. It's a simple, effective story with these characters that like by all means don't make sense. What does Shovel Knight look like when he takes his helmet off? You'll never know.
Yeah.
They wear these costumes all the time.
I assumed he's just a big shovel underneath that thing.
He might be, yeah.
It's so funny. If anyone knows me and my intelligence when it comes to perceiving media, I didn't catch that Shield Knight was Shovel Knight's girlfriend or even just like or anything like that. I just didn't see any of that at the beginning of the game, but it did, which kind of illuminates the end on how, when you do defeat the first stage, spoilers, of the Enchantress, you find out that it was the Enchantress sort of like using Shield Knight, and then you two have to fight each other together. But there was something about that, Patrick, about the way they just kind of let the story play out and lean into the simplicity of how a story probably would be told from this 8-bit era. But it's still effective, I thought. Like so many of the things in this game that they're like, this is NES-esque, but we also understand we're doing a little more than an NES can do in every single way.
Yeah, well, and like especially the conclusion of that story as it presents itself to you in gameplay, right? Because the final battle with the Enchantress, Shield Knight is like freed, and she's like in the battle with you, and you need to use her relative positioning to either like block the enchantress's like magical attacks so you don't get hit, or bounce off her shield so you can like get up there and actually attack the enchantress.
So fun.
And like it feels, like it's a celebration. That part of the battle isn't hard anymore. It's just fun because you're working together, and it's like just a perfect natural conclusion of what you've been working towards the whole time.
Big time.
And I feel like Connor, what you were saying about like it so obviously is inspired by NES games, but I feel like the games that I'm assuming the developers loved growing up with, but I think what makes Shovel Knight so successful is it never feels like derivative. It somehow, like takes all of these elements from games and you can tell that it's inspired by it, but it definitely feels like its own like successful thing. And I think that really makes it stand apart.
Definitely.
It kind of is like, it's almost like that's the MacGuffin is like going and saving, that's
Totally.
that could change. And I feel like it would still feel like a pretty fun like story because the world building is just so grand.
Yes.
And I really think that leads to kind of a bigger like bowl of soup than like a broth,
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much about it that is rich. Even like some of the things that I think Matt was getting at earlier of how strange some of the characters can be, even just like their design and why these creatures cohabitate this world together is never touched on from what I can remember. It begs questions, but what it does most of all, I think, is sort of color this world in a little bit. And there's both from the characters that you interact with, but also just the different assortment of enemies that you'll see in the world. They're also strange in the levels. And like so many games of the era that this is very proudly inspired by, it doesn't answer all those questions, and that makes it kind of fun.
Right. Like you're never going to know why there are people with horse heads, right?
Yes.
Or like,
Right.
why this person is a peacock or whatever.
Where are those rats or whatever getting all those little propeller machines?
Well, I assume from Propeller Knight, right? Like that's his whole thing.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. He's probably yeah. He's like Willard. He's like putting them. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. He's Crispin Glover.
We talked about going to this dang concert. But maybe Patrick, I'm just going to turn to you real quick and open it up to everybody as well. To kick off a little music discussion from this game. I mean, we've talked about how amazing the soundtrack is and how cool it was to hear it live in a big band rock, metal, jazz format. But how it's presented in game is also really special. What do you have to say for yourself?
Oh, geez. No, I mean, I like, so the game has like a real insistence on just like the Shovel Knight theme. It's present in just about every level's music somewhere. I like that each of the knights has their own theme, which is also present in the stage music until you get to them, and then like you hear like the full fanfare of their music. It's just very smart and good. The thing that's like a little bit limiting about it is in just Shovel of Hope that like it feels all very like Mega Man or like, the sort of like stereotypical chiptune 8-bit thing. And it's not really until the Spectre of Torment and King of Cards where like the styles start to get a little bit more adventurous. And you hear more like kind of Baroque pieces of music, or things that are a little bit more like show tunesy almost. Still using the same like sonic soundscape of like 8-bit stuff. But like, yeah, it just like it's amazing how much it grows with the expansions.
Yeah, I gotta say, I do love how it is like the theme is prevalent and like it's there and like and I think that's really it's just really cool how they incorporated it into everything. And I don't know, I just really like what Patrick said, and I'm here to kind of second huzzah Patrick's take because it's a very good take, and I agree with him wholeheartedly.
Well, and I have for my background in the Zoom here, I've got like the campfire sequence, right? And that it does like a sort of like bummer remix of the main Shovel Knight theme during these sequences where he's dreaming about Shield Knight falling and trying to catch her. I think that music is some of the most beautiful like video game music there is, and it's just cool that it's kind of like a chip tune glitchy bummer version of the main theme. It just, I don't know, I think it's awesome.
I have a question for you, Patrick, and it's okay if you don't know the answer, but like I feel like like with the art of the game, it's obviously inspired by 8-bit games, but I don't feel like it's really like limited to 8 bits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think it goes beyond what it would be capable on an 8-bit system. And I'm assuming the music is the same, that it's inspired by 8-bit music, but is not like limited to what you would get on an NES. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely. Like a normal NES soundtrack is only going to have 5 channels of sound, right? There's like percussion, lead, counterpoint, and then like chord and bass. So that's like normally all that you'll hear in an NES score, a normal like 8-bit thing. Or Game Boy is similar. I think Game Boy may only be 4 tracks instead of 5. But so what we're hearing is a lot of 8-bit instruments. So that's a lot of like the same waveforms and the like quality of sound that you'll hear in NES or Game Boy or even Super NES. Like I feel like I hear some Super NES sounds in this, maybe even some Genesis ones too. It's clearly using more voices and longer audio clips. When you think about even the longest NES like loops that you'll hear in music, it's like 30 seconds. And Shovel Knight is a little bit more through composed, and that these pieces of music will sometimes be as long as like 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the NES games that you remember but never actually existed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, or sort of.
I don't think I've ever talked to you about music, Patrick, and I gotta say, I would love to talk to you more.
To that thing you were saying too, Mark, is like this game almost reminds me of what I remember certain NES titles were like growing up. And then oftentimes when I revisit them, some of them are still magical and amazing, but they're not as like grand or as glorious as I do. And this is, I feel like, how I remember even some of the worst games that I played back in the day. Being a kid who like grew up originally on an NES and didn't know Super Nintendo existed until the N64 came out. Mom and Dad, I blame you for this. But there's so much more that we could probably discuss. We've got a limited time remaining, Patrick.
Sorry, I just want to like stomp down on like the 8-bit and like the nostalgia thing for a second, because like I do, it's one of the things that makes me feel like this is a great game, but maybe it is like specifically a great game for people around our ages. There's like the axiom that like the technical limitations of one form of medium is going to become a generation's like aesthetic preferences, right? And that's totally what I see in Shovel Knight, that it has taken all of the limitations of the NES and Game Boy and Super NES era and blown them out graphically, sonically, in terms of gameplay, all that stuff. And it's just like it's recognizing my preferences, but then not being limited by the restrictions.
See, I think that's totally true, but I think, and I've said this before, we're talking about A Link to the Past, but I think it's true with Shovel Knight as well. Like when we went to the concert, there were people of all ages.
Yeah,
there.
you are right.
And I feel like indie games have kind of like changed the way that like this isn't necessarily perceived as old. It's perceived as like, oh, this is what an indie game is like, because there are so many indie games that are based on the 8-bit or 16-bit aesthetic that I don't know that it feels out of time anymore for a lot of like younger gamers. They definitely wouldn't have the same nostalgia that we do for it, but I don't think it feels like old necessarily, like it would have 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I am an audience for this, but being someone that wasn't into it when it came out, I was really impressed with how strong I thought it was throughout. Of course, I do have a bias of like liking games that this is inspired by. But I think in a way, if someone can get not past, but if it's not a hindrance, the limitations of this game, whether it be the way it's designed or the art or what have you. There's so much to be just like absolutely adored here, as I know we all feel the same way. We have a couple things we need to hit before we go. The first of which is I want to open it up to those of you who want to give a quick shout out to the other campaigns we haven't talked about. I know we've said some words about them, but I just wanted to leave a little extra space for that before we close our thoughts on Shovel of Hope.
I want to start by saying I think for me personally, in terms of, I think the best campaign is Spectre Knight. I think Spectre Knight is such a fun. It felt so freeing, and especially because that came after Plague Knight's campaign. Yeah. And I was like, oh wow, this. It felt like such a build up as someone who was following the release order of these I guess DLC. It felt like such a reward for waiting out and continuing to play this game. So
yeah, and kind of like a confirmation that they knew what they were doing, right? Because after Plague Knight, I was a little bit like, are they all going to be this? That's not enough for me. I'm going to stop checking in on them. But with Spectre of Torment, man, that launched first on Switch and launched on Switch the day it came out. And I played that game before I played Breath of the Wild. I loved it so much.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang, dude.
It's just it's got the thing about it is that like its locomotion is so tied into his attacks. So like when he attacks, he sort of like dashes forward through when he's in the air through like enemies or just like little like lanterns or whatever that are part of like the landscape. So you do all of these like amazing things where you're basically flying across the level. And it feels so freeing and so fun and is so fast that like, it's a lot like how pogoing on something is fun as Shovel Knight. Doing these like chain attacks flying through the levels as Spectre Knight is just as much fun, if not more fun.
Yeah, and in terms of like platforming, it definitely is the faster of all of the like even the base game. Like of all the knights you get to play as, it is like. I think it's like the fastest version of this game, and it's very satisfying, for sure. So yeah, I like the speed aspect of it.
Yeah,
I just dipped into this one for a couple levels about a month ago, and it's the closest thing to I feel like this game could get to feeling like Spider-Man because of how you are zipping through objects and points of interest and enemies throughout the game of flying up, down, diagonal. Yeah, I thought it was really great.
The story is also incredible. Like I like the regular Shovel Knight story, but Spectre of Torment, like it goes back into like who Spectre Knight was when he was alive and like what he gave up and why he gave it up to become this like wraith character that we see him as in Shovel of Hope. Is like weirdly touching. When I played it recently, I cried and I was like, what is happening? It's just like a really, really incredible special experience that I think gets buried a lot because like Shovel Knight itself is such a like loud standard bearer that it like drowns it out. But Spectre Knight's incredible.
Does the end story of, maybe I don't want to ask this, but I'm going to ask it. Does it get into why Spectre Knight is, I believe, the first, if not one of the first bosses in Shovel of Hope?
Does it get to why he's one of the first bosses specifically?
Yeah. Maybe I'm just reading into something that's not there.
I mean, I don't think so. Matt, do you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I feel like that was a question a kid asks to be like, teacher, is this a smart question? So my apologies.
No, it's
No, you're great. You're great.
the three DLC campaigns are the first three knights that you fight, right? They're Plague Knight, King Knight, and Spectre Knight. So I think it's kind of just because like those are the three most accessible that like everyone encounters, regardless of how deep into the game you get. That they made the DLCs after them. Matt, did you spend much time in King of Cards? Did you play any Joustus?
I actually didn't. I missed it. I gotta go back and play it because I think at that point I had moved on because that was the latest one. So yeah, I gotta go back and play that. I haven't done that one.
Dude, he's Wario. He's basically like a Wario Land character. He's all based around a dash, bashed into walls. And when he hits a wall or hits an enemy, he like bounces off of it and starts to pirouette. And when he's in this pirouette, he bounces off like the top of enemies. So it's this really fun, super intuitive, like chaining together these moves where you're like hitting walls, bouncing off of guys, and then like air dashing again. It rules. It's so fun.
Yeah. He's so bulky and jaunty.
Yes.
That's great.
God, that you just said my trigger phrase, which is he's like a Wario Land character.
Yeah.
Gosh, that sounds fantastic. Before we do final words on Shovel of Hope, any last words on the other campaigns? Okay, cool.
Plague Knight's still very funny, even though those campaigns suck.
The story of his campaign is good though, because it's all about him trying to like shore up his potions so he can impress Mona, who like you meet in the main campaign. So he's got a crush on Mona and is trying to impress her with his science. And so that's all very fun. But the gameplay is ludicrous.
Yeah, I think he has like a backdoor way to her little screen, and I remember being like, oh, I know her from the other game.
Yeah.
Well, I'll transition us into final thoughts, and I'll go ahead and kick this off by saying that most of this I'm reiterating from earlier, but this game was an absolute triumph to me in the year 2025. I'm definitely a mark for it, being a fan of this era of game, but not really this style of game from the era. Didn't grow up being a Mega Man fan, Castlevania. I was more of like a just Mario or a Bart and Radioactive Man kid on the NES. So not exactly ones to one for this game, but I just think it was amazing, and it may have actually surpassed the expectations that I had for it. It just gave so much, and there was so much more around every corner that I kept. It was one of those games that like I kept finding myself pulled back to. I didn't feel like it was homework that I was going back to, even though I had assigned myself this title for this podcast that we were originally going to do in January. So this game kind of instantly made me a Yacht Club fan, outside of having, a friend who's amongst their numbers. But Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope was amazing, and my dips into the other ones were great. Nothing revelatory there, but dang, was this maybe my favorite gaming experience of the year so far. Matt, I'll turn to you. What are your closing thoughts?
I just want to say that this, to me, is one of the Mount Rushmores of indie games of the 2010s, and will continue to kind of be a representative of what indie games can be. And I'm excited for the franchise to continue to grow. And Yacht Club Games, I can't wait to play Mina the Hollower and whatever comes next. And can't wait for maybe an official Shovel Knight 64.
Let's manifest that today. Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add either, Connor, that you didn't say, because I feel like our experiences were so similar. But yeah, having played it a little bit on the Nintendo 3DS and then putting it away thinking it wasn't for me, coming back to this, I was pleasantly surprised at, the experience. And like you, I was constantly drawn back to it, where it was like, oh, when can I get back, to playing this? And even when it was challenging, like I found the Tower of Fate at the end, and the boss rush before you fight the Enchantress, like I found it challenging. Like, I died a bunch of times, and that was one time where I was like, oof, I'm losing a lot of cash to do this. But it just kept drawing me back, and what a joy. So much fun.
I love it. And last but not least, Patrick Ehlers.
Yeah, I mean, I talk a lot about how, when I play a Mario game, a lot of what I want to do is just run around and jump as Mario. Like that's a thing that brings me joy. Like the core gameplay of the thing is just satisfying. And I feel like Shovel Knight hits those same beats. Like when I was playing this afternoon, just to have it all fresh, I was like, oh, this is like liquid fun. And it's just being injected right into my veins. I've never had a bad time playing Shovel Knight, except for the Plague of Shadows campaign. Not the best.
I love it. Well, folks, that was our main discussion on Shovel Knight, Shovel of Hope. Thank you for listening to Co-op episode 58, whether this is on Patreon or Free Feed or our YouTube. I'm going to close this out with some plugs and let the group go around and do the same thing. If you have anything you want to plug today personally, you can follow me on Blue Sky at Connor McCabe, on Instagram at Connor_McCabe. And I haven't been doing it much lately, but I also sometimes stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/ConsIsCool69. And if you like this bonus version of the show and you've never listened to the main format, go wherever you listen to podcasts. Call Me By Your Game. It's out there. Matt, I'll turn to you now. Any personal plugs that you have today?
Yeah, I'm all over at the Matt Acevedo. It's just my name with the word "the" in front of it. And then I have a podcast called Mass Effect Adventum. It is a Mass Effect tabletop RPG campaign. We've been running for the last I'm pushing 7 to 8 years now. Takes place between Mass Effect 1 and 2. We've had Mark Mir on as a guest and a bunch of other people. So,
plug the main cast. Plug the main cast. They're great.
Yeah, we got Emily Rose Jacobson over from Smodge. We have Bert Jennings, who's an amazing game developer, storyteller. Naeem Stewart, Evan Glessner, Tanea Rivers, and Kelly Nugent.
All right.
Kelly gets that. I don't know why she gets that, but yeah, Kelly Nugent from like Teen Creeps podcast and stuff. So come check it out, dude.
I love it. I've got like 4 friends I'm going to have to send that to immediately who are going to freak out knowing there's a Mass Effect tabletop podcast. I'll also put, by the way,
man.
There's going to be links to all this in the show notes. So, listener, if you're like, oh, I missed that, how do you spell it? There's going to be a link. Scroll down in the episode details. You'll find it. Thanks, Matt. Mark, what do you want to plug?
Yeah, you can check out both myself and Patrick on our Nintendo podcast, Nintendo Cartridge Society. We put out 2 episodes a week. One is a news episode covering all the Nintendo news from the last week. And then the other is like a topic episode where we either discuss games or rank the Kongs or anything and everything Nintendo is on the table. And we have a lot of fun, so you should check that out.
Will Donkey Kong's revised look change the entire ranking?
Oh, it might. It might no longer be definitive.
Yeah. I assume we're going to meet new Kongs in that too.
Oh, we gotta. Hot Kong. I heard there's Mommy Kong. It's gonna be great. Patrick, anything else for you on your way out, plug wise?
Well, I mean, of course, the Nintendo Cartridge Society podcast. But then, if you are interested in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I did write the definitive encyclopedic source book on the IDW Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles source book, available wherever you buy books, comic book stores, or wherever. It's 400 pages of articles about characters and events and magic items and everything that takes place in the IDW comic book series.
I love it. All of those plugs will be in the show notes below, including these business plugs that I have right here for you, listener. The cover art for Call Me By Your Game is done by the artist Glenn J. You can find Glenn and his other great work on Instagram in the show notes. The show is produced, edited, and the original music that you'll hear throughout is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can thank him by listening to his show, Video Games, a comedy show, a podcast that is about comedy and video games, if it wasn't obvious. You can also follow this podcast, Call Me By Your Game, on Blue Sky, Instagram, and on YouTube, especially if you want to see all the handsome and gorgeous people we have on these podcasts. Check us out on YouTube. Give us a follow. You're going to love what you find there. You can also follow the network on Super NPC Radio on Blue Sky and Instagram. And again, last but not least, if you're listening in the future on a free feed or on YouTube, consider checking us out on Patreon. We have a ton of bonus video game podcasts that go up every month, including our weekly Games Club series where we go through a video game in a book club style format. And currently, folks, we are covering Resident Evil 4 Remake. This is the Wii version, which I'm also playing, but we're covering RE4 Remake, which Patrick is actually featured on. Can you confirm this, Patrick? You're on this?
I can, in fact, confirm that I appear on the
scoop.
Resident Evil 4
Yes.
Games Club, and we're having a blast.
It's a great time. That's our, Patreon exclusive series at the $5 DJ Toad tier. But we also release the old ones, the Legacy series from the past on a free feed at Super NPC Games Club. Coincidentally, our Resident Evil 2 Remake series is airing there right now, so it's all Resident Evil. Again, links to all this stuff in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Call Me By Your Game. We will see you on the next one.